All right, welcome to need to share my screen. Can you see my screen okay, Leslie?
I can.
Thank you. Welcome to Tool Time Tuesday, and this is session 81, and we're doing Microsoft Editor. We did Microsoft Editor once before, but I wanted to do it again because I've been asked a lot about Grammarly, and this is a substitute for Grammarly. We do not have an institutional license for Grammarly. But this is a good tool that you can use in place of that, and just a basic kind of editor tool. And it's also available on the desktop. Last time we did this session, it was only in the cloud, but now you can use it on the desktop version of Word, so it's got a lot more functionality. If you haven't joined us before, I'm Larissa Gann and my colleague Leslie Moore. We are from the Research Medical Library, and we're here to show you some tools. You can check out our website at mdanderson.org/library. Everything we provide in the library is free for MD Anderson staff and students and faculty to use. We do have some upcoming classes. We have a lot of great classes coming up. We have a Dear Editor session on how do I craft a manuscript that won't annoy reviewers. That one's going to be good, especially if you have fellows or if you haven't written in a while. It's a good session. We have a session on ORCID, how to create a unique author ID. We have an EndNote 20 level up session and a PubMed level up session as well coming up. And you can find all these on the institutional calendar and on our website calendar. Just a reminder that on Inside, they notified us that there's a new Duo verified push method. It's, from what I can tell, it's only for people who are still using the phone call for Duo. If you don't have the Duo app on your phone, you need to get it on your phone. This starts tomorrow. The instructions are on Inside, and if you're not sure, if you've been using the call method for Duo, you need to, check out the instructions and/or contact for info. This is all on Inside, so you can check out on the latest news that the Duo app is moving just to the push notifications, if I understood it correctly. So we're all going to find out tomorrow. The flu clinics also begin today. You probably saw that on Inside. I wanted to mention this because they changed the way you can submit your documentation. So if you're getting your flu vaccine and at a community site like a Walgreens or CVS, you can upload your documentation instead of emailing it to Employee Health. You would upload your documentation, and they have this information also on Inside, and I'll share it after as well. But just to let you know, the flu clinics are there. The new COVID vaccines are out too. I don't know if I don't believe they're offering them quite yet here. I'm not positive, but you can check your local pharmacy as well. All right, so let's talk about Microsoft Editor. What is it? It's kind of like Grammarly. And I know that we've all been exposed to Grammarly because the YouTube ads are insane. They're everywhere. But we don't have Grammarly as an institution. We do have Microsoft Editor. It provides advanced help with grammar, spelling, tone, etc. What you're going to do is when you use the Editor app, and we'll take a look at it in a little bit, you're looking for these little blue lines, the red squiggly lines, the blue dashes. This is where it's telling you might have something that you need to make a change on. So Editor is available through office.com. So if you like to use the office.com Word version, it's there already. But it is also available on the desktop as well. If you don't see the Editor app on the desktop, contact ForInfo for help. It's possible that they may need to upgrade you, but it should be on your desktop app. It's also available as a browser extension for Chrome or for Edge, so you can use it on your browser as well. So getting started with it, it's pretty straightforward to use. You're looking for this cute little editor icon. It's a pencil or a marker, I guess, with some little lines behind it. It's under the Home tab, so it's that first tab on Microsoft Word. When you click on the icon, this panel is going to pop out to the right. I kind of blew it up here pretty large for you. What you see first is an editor score. Don't read too much into the score. It's because you're going to be able to go through each of the sections. This document that I got scored, it's only a 64, but I was making a bulleted list of things. It wasn't a formal written, typed out document. So remember that you're writing for your audience. So the editor is not always right. So you want to look at the review, the items that it's asking you to review, but it may not be perfect. And also note that you can change the style. So in this case, my style was at formal writing. I could change it to professional or to casual, and my percentage would change as well. So that's part of why I have a low percent is I have a bulleted list and I've selected formal. Probably if I chose casual, it would bring the score up a bit. So that's just an overview of the score and changing the tone of the editor. The corrections are pretty basic corrections that you're probably used to, except you can go through them one by one and get a little bit more information. In the corrections section, this includes your spelling and your grammar errors. Most of these are things you probably want to address. There are other things in editor that aren't as critical, but obviously spelling and grammar are basic things that you'd want to review and see why those were flagged. For spelling, when you see a word that has a potential misspelling, it's going to have the red squiggly line below it. I don't know if that's the technical word, the squiggly line, but this little red line, you can go through each spelling error and you could make a decision. So you can ignore it all. So in this case, it's written, I've copied this from the internet. It's in the British spelling. So this is correct if I was publishing in a journal or a book that prefers the British spelling. So I could say ignore all when I use the British spelling of behaviors. Or I could just ignore the one. I could show the context for why this is an issue. I could add it to my dictionary and say, I'm always going to use the British spelling for behaviors because I prefer it. I don't really, but I could add that to the dictionary if I wanted, and I could show synonyms. And all of this is under the little ... section here. But you'll also notice when you click on it in the right-hand panel, it's going to give you a little bit more description and information on the side that you can dig in a little deeper. So instead of just accepting the spelling, it gives you some options to kind of explore a little more what you want to do with it. There's obviously a grammar section as well. And if you see the blue lines, it's going to be looking at word choice, verb tense, run-on sentences, and punctuation. You can ask it to stop checking for it. You can look a little bit deeper in the panel about why it's calling this out. One of the other interesting things is it has a read aloud feature. So it will read aloud the sentence for you so you can hear it and decide like, oh, that does sound weird. Sometimes if I read things out loud to myself, it helps to understand if it sounds funny, but it has a read aloud feature for you. And obviously it's good to get someone else to read your documents if it's a really important thing you're turning in, because sometimes you look at it for so long, you just don't know if it makes sense anymore or not, or maybe that just happens to me. There's also some rewrite suggestions. So this is kind of one of their AI things they've integrated. They're supposed to be integrating more AI elements into the Microsoft tools. You can highlight one or more sentences, right-click on the highlighted text, and choose Rewrite Suggestions, and it's going to give you some options for rewriting the sentence. What we found is this is not a consistent tool, so if you highlight more than one sentence, a lot of times it won't work. If you highlight an extra period or comma from the sentence before or after, it doesn't necessarily work. So you have to be pretty precise in your highlighting for it to give you some suggestions. But that is an option for rewriting a sentence or figuring out a way to reword a sentence. There's also refinements. So this section is not as critical that you go through all of it, because some of it's just your decision about the tone and how things are going to sound. But if you go to refinements, you see you have all of these options under here. If there's a check mark, it means that they've cleared you, that you I've followed my punctuation conventions here. They have inclusive language here, sensitive geopolitical references, but more importantly, maybe more critical here, it's been highlighted that clarity, conciseness, and my formality were not, have a couple of issues. So I could go through those and I could check them and decide if that matters to me or not, or if it makes sense or not. The other thing is they've added this resume section. So if you are looking through your resume or someone else's resume, it will give you suggestions on resumes. I don't know how accurate this is. I didn't actually check my resume to see if that works well, but it's a newer feature that they have. Don't forget that we do have scientific editors on staff. So if you have a manuscript that you're editing or a grant, you can submit a manuscript to our editors for review. You want to give them plenty of lead time, but obviously you could go through and use the editor preliminarily when you're writing, and then before you submit for publication, check with an editor, because their ability to edit is far surpasses this Microsoft editor tool. I can't even explain it to you. So just remember, we do have editors, and if you do have questions about language, you could ask us. There's a question. Are you able to modify or add things for editor to check? Revise the style guide. I do not know if you can revise the style guide. Are you meaning like for your references, or no, for formatting?
I'm just on mute.
Sure.
For formatting, so are there specific, if there's field specific things or punctuation or things to check, like actually an easy one that's not even field specific, would it be to look for MDACC, which we don't use, we shorten only to MD Anderson, things like that?
Yeah, there is a way to do that. I think, let me, at the end, let me show you that.
Awesome. Thanks.
But I don't know if it's the absolute right way, and I hope that if there's another editor on the call that they'll mention it, but I'll show you what I know at the end. Okay, so there's also some learning tips. So if you want to get a little bit more information on why these things are being called out, you can hover over the underlined text, and there's a see more section on the desktop version that'll give you more explanation as to why this has been called out. So you may be thinking, this isn't an issue. Why is it an issue? And you can go to see more, and it will try to explain it to you a little bit more. And the online version, it's called a learning tip. So under the squiggly line, when you click on the squiggly line, you'll see a little light bulb, and that is where you could get more explanation and suggestion for why that item was flagged. So if you want to learn a little bit more about why that language was selected, because sometimes I think that too, when something's edited, like, why is that way? And so it's nice to learn. There's also just document stats. So some of these you've seen before, because Word has had some of these available before, but in the editor pane, you can choose the document stats section. It's going to give you a word count, a character count, the number of paragraphs you have. It's interesting that they add the time to read or to speak, how long it would take you to read it or to actually read it aloud, the difficulty to read score, and the total suggestions from the editor, so your total score. So it just gives you a little wrap up of all of your counts. There are variations in the desktop versus the online app. So, but it's kind of interesting that you can get a little count there. There is a plagiarism checker as well. It's called Similarity. You can click on the similarity section. It does take a few minutes to process, and you'll receive a score where you can go through and take a look at what it counted as a similarity. So it's going out into the World Wide Web, the internets, trying to see if potentially you didn't cite something properly or copied something but forgot to go back and reword it. It happens. You can go through each item. You can open the original source, and then from that source decide, see that, oh yes, I did copy that, or I need to reword that. You could add a citation there. So you could put quotations around it and add the citation, or, you could make the decision to reword that text. So that's available through there. But I do want to note that it has limitations. I have compared it to the Authenticate tool that we have in the library. The Authenticate tool is free. It's also a plagiarism checker. With Authenticate, you can upload your document and it will review it. It has a wider net that it casts and reviews for possible plagiarism. So if you want to check something for plagiarism before you turn it in, you can request a free Authenticate account through the library. Once you receive the account, you can log in and upload your documents. Your documents are totally private as well through Authenticate. They're not stored anywhere, and it has been approved by InfoSec as being secure. So just to let you know, there is a plagiarism checker out there. In the online version of Editor, and I think it's only in the online version that I could find it, they have this thing called text predictions, similar to autocomplete on your phone, which drives me nuts sometimes, but it will try to predict what you're typing. You could turn this, toggle this on or off. It's also just in the editor pane. So if it's filling in the text and that's bothering you, you could turn it off. Or if you want it to do that, you could turn it on. I think the default is for it to be on. If you're writing in another language, there are some editor tools available in other languages. I've given you the support link for that, for how to determine what tools are available in editor for other languages. And there is a browser extension. I don't use the browser extension. I just use the Word version. I have the browser extension enabled, but I haven't really used it much. So this works like other apps that you add as an extension. It automatically is going to add the little squiggly line in the different colors, just like it did in Word. From the browser extension, you can turn options on or off, like the spelling, the grammar, the refinements. So if it's giving you too many things, you can turn some of them off. You can choose a proofing language. And again, you can go back to the previous slide to review what's available through the different languages. And you can exclude editor from specific websites if you don't want it to pop up on specific websites. If you add the editor extension, this is what the icon looks like in Chrome. It's very easy to download. And then you can see it kind of pops out this little window so that you can turn the refinements on or off if you'd like to. Okay. Oh, so one of our scientific editors said they also offer quick turnaround service for short documents like abstracts and specific aim sections of NIH applications. So thank you. Yes, don't forget the editing services. You can find them on our website. There is an editor on call on weekdays too if you have questions, and they're super brilliant. So please take advantage of that service. Okay, so this is a bonus tip that we wanted to provide. This is sort of outside of Editor, but it's still a tool within Microsoft that will help you with your writing. And I think this might answer the question previously, not positive. But in Word, you can go to the options section and go to proofing. Proofing is right here. Now, this menu always looks a little overwhelming to me when I first see it, but there's some really cool stuff in here. There's two things under proofing that we wanted to point out. The first one is autocorrect options. So you can change how Word corrects and formats the text as you're typing. So this is where you could enter in commonly misspelled words and replace it with the correct spelling. So for instance, I type in the word institutional wrong all the time. I leave out a T, or I put IS in. I'm not sure why I type faster than I'm not sure, but you can go into the autocorrect options. You can put in the common misspelling that you're using, the correction, and it will correct those for you. It's doing a lot of this for you. So we were looking things up, and it was adding in some autocorrect things that are regularly known. It will also replace text with the appropriate symbol as well. Let me actually show you what it looks like. So if we go to File and Options and Proofing, so our autocorrect options pop open here. And you'll see if I needed to use the copyright symbol, I can put in the C in parentheses and it will translate to copyright. These are automatically were in there. I didn't do anything to add these. A bunch of other possible ways that you've misspelled things or typed things, putting the I before the E sometimes, which I do definitely do. It will add these in, but you could put in something commonly that you type incorrectly or misspell. I mean, we all have it, and it will modify those for you.
And this is where you could type in MDACC and then translate it into the full institutional name if you wanted it to.
Perfect.
I mean, yeah, we might want to put the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center. I'll let you decide. Okay. And then the other option, does that help? Does that answer the question, Jen?
Absolutely. It sure does.
Do you use these regularly? Because you write a lot, don't you?
No, you know what I use? I'm curious as to how this might replace Perfect It. So I have a custom style guide in Perfect It. It doesn't auto correct though. It just in the check, it will say, do you want to switch in these
Oh,
locations, MDACC? So I can put those things in, or, do you want to change in order to two in these places, things like that. So,
okay.
but some of that can be done here for sure.
And yeah, I mean, it seems like when Leslie and I were talking it through, I mean, it seems like it could be a little labor intensive initially, but would save you so much time in the long run.
Right, right.
So one of our editors just mentioned clinical trail instead of clinical trail and clinical trial, which I do that a lot, the word trail versus trial. So that's another one. But there's a lot of words that I think we all type in wrong or misspell. Sometimes I type so fast that I type things wrong, but there's also the custom dictionaries. The custom dictionaries, you can edit the word list here. So things that are spelled maybe differently, like medical terminology or institution names or my name, Leslie's name. A lot of times Leslie's name, it ends in an I, but it wants to correct with the E. It feels like it needs an E. So you can type in words here as well to have them appear correctly. Did I miss anything, Leslie, on those?
No, you nail it. You got it. You got it.
I nailed it. Does anyone else have any other suggestions for editing options in Word that they use? They want to share? Leslie also mentioned for the custom dictionaries that she put in for info because it always corrects that.
It always says, oh, this is wrong. What do you want to do with it? And I'm like, no, it's not wrong. Stop.
It's correct. You should be able to see editor up here on the desktop. It's under the home tab. Here's my editor. Full disclosure, I copied this text, a portion of text from online. If you do not see this, how did you find it, Leslie? Because you had it, but it was hidden.
Yeah, but it was the very modified version. It was under review.
Oh.
And then it's a very shortened format of it.
Okay.
To get the full editor like you have to contact 4Info and have them update your Microsoft 365.
And this is something I've struggled with because I don't know. I went to the wrong place. I don't know what the proper version we're supposed to be on is. All I know is I have the Microsoft 365 apps for enterprise. And I do know that we're working on different versions, and I don't know how to tell people to get the right version because it's not clear in the software center. So my best advice is to call 4Info or put in a ticket with 4Info and ask them to give you the latest version.
Yeah. So my version, which I don't have editor on, I open a document, I click on the review tab, and then I click on the spelling and grammar option. And then I get a very modified editor pane, but not anything like yours.
And Leslie is on a different version than me for some reason. I also wanted to show you that you can customize your quick toolbar. If you use this up here, there's a little tiny caret drop-down menu. You can select editor so that your little editor icon will show up here as well and will open that window. So if you happen to be on another tab or you just like the quick access toolbar, this will open up your editor on the right-hand side. Okay. Any
Totally
questions?
not related to editor, but I noticed in your drop down in the quick access bar that they now have read aloud available too.
Oh yeah, right here. So the read aloud. And we talked about that last time, that there's a read aloud option for reading your documents. Okay, so someone said we should be able to we sent out the message this morning about the 4Info tool on that you should be able to get short access to update items with the For Info tool on your, what is it called? Your system tray. You should be able to update to the latest version. I don't know why this is so confusing to me. It feels like everybody's kind of working from a different version. Let me show you. I'm going to move my share so you can see it. Share. Okay, so from the system tray, you should be able to see this little For Info icon and double click on it to open it. And you should be able to request admin access to update things. Is that how we update? Does anyone else have information on the best way to update?
I thought we were supposed to be able to just update from the software center. If it had already been vetted through the software center, I thought we were able to update ourselves, but
It's confusing. The Office 365 one is confusing from the software center
yeah,
because
I had the same issue with Acrobat too.
I'm not sure. And I'm sorry that I don't have the answer for that. And that's why we always just say to go to For Info, because it's not clear to me in the software center what's updated and what's not.
Oh, and you know what I'm seeing when I go to my office information on my account, it does say office updates are managed by your system administrator.
Mm-hmm.
What we
So
did
I guess we do
is
have to request it.
we
Okay.
all share a worksheet in Excel, and we found that it was crashing a lot, and they suggested that we all update to the latest version. And we did it just like this. We requested admin access and then went to the software center
Okay.
and did the update.
Okay.
For us, it was just 4 of us at the time. So, for that little bit of activity, it wasn't that hard.
So, oh, go ahead.
Oh, someone has their hand raised,
Oh,
so they
okay.
may have a comment.
Did someone else have a comment or a thought?
Yes, good morning. This is Jahel Burke with Cancer Prevention IT. Just a quick point of reference regarding the CyberArk on demand, because I heard you guys talking about trying to update certain things, and you were told that, if it's in the software center, you should be able to just go there. Unfortunately, we've seen, I guess you can say, that not being consistent. So most of the times we tell our end users on our end to basically go to the admin access and put in that information to request it, saying that you're trying to update software, because it's going to prompt you to type in what is it that you're needing this admin access for. And once you type that in, it then will have another additional pop-up window to ask you to type in your username and your password, and then you'll get the window that says you've been given temporary access, and then you should be able to update or install whatever software you're trying to get accomplished.
Okay. Can I ask another question? Sorry, I'm going to put you on the spot.
That's fine.
So for a lot of people are having Outlook crash and things like that. And I thought maybe if they updated that would help, but it's not clear. So you're saying we could go to the admin access, we can put in what we're trying to update, and then we would put in our username and password. How do we know which one to update? Is it the one in the software center or?
So if you go back to, I'm trying to see how you can do it on your end. Because where you were showing like the different versions, because like I've even noticed like my version of Office says 365 Pro Plus.
Yes.
That's what mine says. Mine says Pro Plus too.
But what
Okay,
I found with that version is it doesn't have all the options that this one does.
Exactly.
Correct. So my advice, so that way you don't accidentally mess anything up, would be to contact For Info, because there is another way to update to this Microsoft 360 apps for enterprise, but it has to be done from, I guess, from an IT level support personnel.
Okay.
Because otherwise, if you try to do it, you may fix one thing and then you break something else.
Okay.
I've done that with several faculty members who wanted the 365 for enterprise. And so I would just go in there and update it for them, because there is a different way to do it. Because I've seen sometimes the software center does not update and does not have that version available through the
Okay.
software center. And even if they did, then we've seen again where people try to install it and it doesn't install. And we've heard from IT engineering that that should not be occurring, but we've seen several instances where that is exactly what is happening.
I've seen that as well. So do you think if people put in a 4Info ticket and upgrade their Outlook, it might help this crashing situation, or
Yes,
not sure?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Because there was a big issue with OneDrive where OneDrive would not open. And so once, we updated the Microsoft Office 365 to the 365 apps for enterprise, that helped resolve a lot of issues.
okay. All right. So everyone in this room is probably going to put in a 4Info ticket and try to
Yes.
upgrade. But I do
Yeah.
think I thank you so much, because I've been trying to get an answer to this, and that was my thought, was that we needed to all upgrade. But do you know why we don't get these pushed to us automatically, or
I will say the politically correct answer by just
okay.
saying that I unfortunately don't know that answer. That is
Okay.
that is at a higher level.
Got you. I got you. Okay. Well, thank you for participating and helping us.
Yes, absolutely.
I will say, as far as like why there is some technical reasons, I'm not an expert and I'm not speaking for 4Info, but the updates are on a schedule, part of it. So part of it is they're on a schedule, and part of it is we have a lot of computers across the institution. So some of this has to do with like the actual feasibility, the physical, technical feasibility of getting an update to somebody.
So my favorite thing about this group is that, we bring these issues together and sometimes we figure them out. So this is awesome. Everybody is, if you're struggling with compatibility or things crashing, try to put in a ticket with 4Info, and hopefully the upgrade will help. So that'll be our takeaway from today. Also to try Microsoft Editor. And thank you so